Hey everyone, welcome to the very first podcast of Once More with Feelings. I'm Beth.
And I'm Michelle. And we're so excited to kick off this journey with you.
In this podcast, we'll be diving into the media that moves us. Everything from movies and music to books and more.
That's right. Each week, we'll share heartfelt discussions and genuine conversations about the media that shapes our lives.
Whether it's the latest hits or timeless classics, we're here to talk about what truly resonates with us.
So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's get started.
Let's dive in and feel the vibes together on Once More with Feelings.
So, this week, we're going to take our pseudo deep dive into our feelings and emotions on the 90s classic, Pauly Shore's Son-in-Law.
Yeah, this is a 1993 comedy film. It is directed by Stephen Rash. It stars Pauly Shore, as you said. Mm-hmm. And it also has Carla Gugino, who is like a major star even to this day.
Exactly.
She's done what? Things like House on Haunted Hill is one of them. What's another one? I always go to Spy Kids.
Yeah, you always go to Spy Kids, and I thought of the House on Haunted Hill earlier. Honestly, I mean, she's in so many things, but when we were watching the movie, and like I discussed, she's got a face that you know and you see, and you're like, I know her from that, and I know her from this, but I can never remember her name, and I feel so bad about that it's one of those ones that I can't remember.
Yeah. I know that she's in a lot of things. She's in Sin City, as we said, Spy Kids, and it really throws me off whenever I see her in a film that's much older, because when I saw this, I think I'd just gotten out of the military, and it was about a year out, and I was watching it, and I loved Pauly Shore. He was so funny. Encino Man, of course, he had a whole slew of films in the early 90s, and one of the things I loved about Pauly Shore is he was always way over top.
But he was himself.
Well, he was himself, but he was way over the top himself.
Yes.
So in all the ways that mattered, he was just always funny as a character actor. So on top of that, we have Lane Smith as Walter, the father of Rebecca, who is Carla Gugino. He was in My Cousin Vinny as the prosecutor.
I'd forgotten about that.
I always forget that. Cindy Pickett, who I know as Ferris Bueller's mom.
I don't think I know her from anything else.
I know that she's been in a few things. I just couldn't name them offhand. Again, this is a pretty big cast of well-knowns, but you can't really name exactly where they've been.
Well, Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
So Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell.
She was Kelly.
I mean,
everybody knows that.
Again, another notable face that you always recognize.
But Patrick Renna, who is Ham from The Sandlot.
And that man still looks the same.
Exactly
I
the
love
same.
him.
Just taller, and that's about it. Just taller.
I know. Have you seen him on
himself.
TikTok? He is adorable.
No, I haven't seen him on TikTok.
Oh my God. Yeah, him and his buddies do dances, and he's great.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, we'll have to look him up later so you could see him. He's hysterical.
So Travis, the ex-boyfriend of Rebecca, or soon-to-be ex-boyfriend, because we haven't actually gotten there yet, is Dan Gautier.
Go. I have it in my notes.
Say that?
Gautier, yes.
Gautier. It's very, I thought it was Gauthier.
I did think
it is
I
not
thought that
Gauthier. It sounds much better as Gautier, and I'm glad they said that. So Mason Adams, who is in everything.
It was a pretty full cast.
Yeah, and he plays Walter Sr.
And, hey, spoiler alert, if you've never seen the movie before, there are 2 cameos in the movie which mean a lot. Well, the first one means a ton to me because he is one of my favorite people in the world.
And one of mine, because I know exactly who you're going to.
Brandon Fraser, who did his little cameo as Link from Encino Man. And yeah, we might have to do Biodome at some point too. We'll just do like the Pauly Shore thing and do all the.
I think we can sprinkle it in through the rest of the podcast.
I think so.
So Steve Rash,
yes.
who directed the film, he's known for a lot of things. Some not so great, I think, because they're American Pie : Bring It On, : It's these little sequels.
The sequels, yeah.
Early 2000s was not kind for sequels. But he did the 1987 Can't Buy Me Love with Patrick Dempsey and Amanda Peterson. I do love that movie. Yeah, Amanda Peterson was in it. She was awesome. I wanted to be her so bad.
Well, I just know that, all these people who are like, they fawn over Patrick Dempsey from Grey's Anatomy and stuff. And I'm like, I loved him when he was in Can't Buy Me Love. And that one he did, oh my God, where he was the woo-woo kid.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, I can't remember the name of that one, but we'll have to look that one up too.
But
if you remember, you can send us an email. We'll give you the email information later on.
But Patrick, when he's on the mower,
oh my God,
you're just like, he's so adorable.
He is so adorable.
But anyway, so Steve Rash did, I think, probably what's termed as my favorite movie of all times. Mm-hmm. It is the 1981 classic, Under the Rainbow. I watched that so many times. I wore out, yes, and I'm old, the VHS tape. It features Carrie Fisher and a host of others.
I don't think I've ever seen it. We'll have to put that one on our watch list because I don't think I've ever seen it. But remember, when it comes to movies, and this is probably something we should explain before we get into our podcasting here, and we'll probably explain multiple times, is as much as we both love movies, I've not seen anywhere near as many movies as Beth has watched. But then there's movies that I have seen that she has not. So before we get into Son-in-Law, we should probably explain.
Oh, I got so excited. I didn't even think about it.
We got excited about, and like, well, what are they doing? They're just talking about this movie. Why are they talking about it?
That's what we're doing, though.
Is we are here to talk about these movies, not do any type of review. We're not going to tell you whether it was good or bad. These are movies that we found entertaining, and we might do a few ones that we watched and we remember were horrible, just to see if we can like it now as we're older.
Because they drive an emotion.
Exactly. If it makes you feel. So once more with feeling, does this movie, as we rewatch it again, can we talk, how did we feel when we were younger and we saw these movies, or even the very first time we saw it, if we've never seen it before? How does this movie make us feel? And it's not even just movies. We will discuss books. We can discuss music. Really any media. We just decided that movies would be a really good jumping point. We'll give you a little bit of a summary about the movie. We might tell you a few spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, then, keep your ears closed.
I think this one's kind of past its prime.
Yeah. I mean, if we watch one that let's try to do it this way. If we watch a movie that was made within the past, 5 years, we won't spoil it.
We'll just let you know when we do spoil it, and you can always fast forward.
Yeah, and if it's older than 5 years from now, then there's a good chance we're going to spoil the hell out of it. And if you, just to give you all a heads up as well, I will curse. And I try not to, and I will try to be good, but I can promise you that there will be bad words.
Cursing's going to happen.
Cursing is going to happen.
It's just going to happen. There's going to be F-bombs everywhere.
To quote Paget Brewster in one of my favorite podcasts, which unfortunately my brain has gone blank on, The Thrilling Adventure Hour. Oh, I remembered. And she says, and I'm probably paraphrasing this, is I curse like a truck driver who tutors sailors on the weekends. But I will try not to do that here.
And you just plugged a podcast.
I did.
We don't even get paid for that.
And you know what? They're not even a podcast. I mean, they're not even, or I don't think they broadcast anymore.
Oh, well, that's
Thrilling Adventure Hour. If you get a chance, it is funny, it is adorable, and it is the best.
Okay, so should we get into the actual movie?
Yes. Now that I think we make sense. If you have any questions, once again, send us emails. We might be jumping around this is our first foray into this. And while Beth has had podcasts in the past, I am new to this, and I'm also a rambler. So
I'm not so professional. I don't rattle papers while we're doing this.
So yeah, let's get into this.
So Son-in-Law, as we said, 1993 comedy film by Steve Rash. It stars Pauly Shore as Crawl, a free-spirited college student from California.
Well, he what I love about Crawl is his adaptability. I remember watching this. Oh my God, 93. Where was I? Oh God, I was early 20s. I mean, it was funny. I wasn't as aware, maybe per se, of there's a lot of sexism. In my notes when we were rewatching, I did have things like, oh my goodness, where is it now? I did write sexism, and I did write obesity issues. So
Yeah,
there were
there's
two.
some fat phobia.
There's a lot of fat phobia, and a lot. I mean, with the wrestling match, the mud wrestling, that was kind of like ick. Even like him hitting on her in the beginning, the fresh meat, and he used the same line with the other girl he saw. I mean, when he's first introduced, he's not harmless. He doesn't come off as harmless. He comes off almost predatory.
Well, and that's the thing.
But I didn't see that as when I was younger.
Exactly, and neither did I.
Yeah.
See, I think in progress, you start paying attention to the nuance of things. And one of our things is being conscious of it.
Yes.
Now. But it doesn't make it a bad film. It makes it a film to be aware of. And he does change fairly rapidly.
He does change, and he's there for her. Becca's his best friend. And, I mean, they hit it off pretty quickly. When he sees that she's going to leave because she's not able to fit into college life in the beginning, and she's upset and she's willing to go, she's ready to go home. Yeah, she's the country girl from South Dakota, filmed in California.
And that's the story. It follows her. It follows Rebecca, starting from the first with her family, packing up, ready to go to college. And as you say, she meets Crawl, but this is during a very hectic time, going into college as a child, and your parents are there, and everyone is fighting, and nothing seems to be going right, and the father, of course, meets Crawl because Crawl is what? The
resident. He's the resident advisor.
Right. So as the resident advisor, he's supposed to be there for the students, but of course he's a little bit out of it. And the father is freaked out because they're doing this huge culture clash.
Yeah. Country people, coming into the city.
Right. There's a culture shock to be had there. And they're really expounding on that. They are making that the focus of everything. The parents are in awe. They're freaked out because there's so much happening.
Yeah.
And Crawl is a feature of that because he pops up.
Literally upside down.
When Walter goes to try to find a screwdriver.
And what does he say? I'm sorry, I'm out of vodka.
Right. A real screwdriver.
Yeah.
And, Pauly Shore's hanging upside down, and he's like, doing the weasel bit where he extends out his verbs and stuff.
Buddy.
And his nouns, apparently. So when Crawl is helping Rebecca, who is getting homesick, they become friends because she's freaked out by him at first, like you said.
Yeah.
And she gets upset because a horse that was
like a figurine,
that was carved by her grandfather gets broken, and she wants to go home. She's homesick. She's not fitting in there. At least she feels she's not. And Crawl does the one thing I think is probably the sweetest thing in the movie is he's honest with her. Yeah. He kind of drops the facade, and he does. He shows a picture of who he used to be when he first got there. And that dog bark signals a fast fact or a trivia. Every time our dogs bark, you get to hear a trivia. Go ahead and give them something.
Okay, so let's see. What is our first trivia? I have to go find it in my notes. Okay, first trivia is... Oh my God. Pauly Shore was nominated for Best Comedic Performance at the MTV Music Awards in 1994.
And I hope we have a lot of those trivia because our dogs bark a lot.
Oh, they bark a lot. So sorry in advance.
But you're going to get trivia, so you're being paid, really.
Yes, because there was really no way to keep them quiet.
So Crawl does the one thing he could do for her, and let's be honest. He shows a picture of himself as a nerd, or as the stereotypical nerd, which I don't really care for.
Yeah.
That is something that's kind of outdated, even in 1993.
Yeah.
I think in the 80s, I think we kind of broke through the barrier of the nerd thing.
I had hoped, but I think it still lingers a bit. And I really hate to say that, but I do see it as somebody who works in schools. I do see that it is still used in a derogatory manner, which I thought we were over it. We are not.
We don't seem to be, but I don't see it much.
Nah, I still wear it as a badge of honor. I'm a nerd.
We're all nerds in our own way. So Crawl admits this to her, and Becca, as he calls her, decides to give it a second chance. And then it does the montage where they go into Venice Beach and he shows her the sights and they roller skate, or, well, they inline skate, and they buy new clothes for her. She gets her hair done from brunette to blonde.
Chops it off.
Right. And then she gets a tattoo.
Which is funny. And the tattoo scene is our second cameo. The first cameo with Brendan Fraser takes place during the Halloween party when Becca is, she's done and she's going to go home. And that's, Pauly is at that time, Crawl. He's dressed up kind of Carmen Miranda-ish. And the Brendan Fraser character, the character Link from Encino Man comes up to him and does the whole pulls the frog, lights it on fire kind of thing and eats it, which is what he does in Encino Man. But in the tattoo parlor, we get my other favorite person, Flea. From the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
And we both said it at the same time when we're watching
we'd forgotten it. And if you are a Flea fan, you know that this is not his first foray into acting.
Nor is it his last.
No, but he was also one of my favorite characters. He was Donnie in The Wild Thornberrys.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes, he was the wild child.
But that makes sense.
Yes.
I think that fits.
And if I remember correctly, and I'm probably wrong about this, but he did that because for his kids.
Oh, well, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Good of Flea.
I love him. And I'm probably wrong. There's probably things about him that aren't great, but
also,
I don't care.
In that scene where they're doing the Halloween party or the costume party in the hallways and in the rooms and everything.
Yeah.
Adam Goldberg shows up. He's got like a split-second role in which he says, I forget what he says, but it's just a single line.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't he asking her if she was playing an old washerwoman or something like that? That
Probably.
was her costume.
And that's the last time you see him.
Is he the one who put the beer in her basket? Or was that...
I don't know.
Yeah, because I think it was the cowboy. Who was
he was the Indian.
But the cowboys who put the beer in her basket.
Right. The cowboy did that. So the Indian, or who was dressed as a Native American,
Indigenous, yes.
Yeah, which
really poorly done because it was very offensive. If you look back,
yeah, and I think looking back on it, it makes it much worse.
It's like,
and Adam Goldberg did not want to do this film. This was to pay for rent.
Oh no!
And he needed the money, and he refused to come back and dub his lines.
Oh wow!
So they had to overdub it with someone else.
Oh. Nice.
That's another trivia thing. I probably should have waited until a dog barked, but don't worry. They'll bark, and I'll just say, well, I owed you, so there you go.
So, again, how did the movie make you feel the first time you saw it?
The first time I saw it, let's just open this up, because I'm always going to have experiences that differ from yours. Mm-hmm. I am a trans woman. When I saw it, I identified heavily with Rebecca. I identified with Rebecca not because she was this shy girl who came out, but because Rebecca's changes didn't change her.
It's true.
It didn't change who she was. And when I watched it, I tend to do this with a lot of films. I do it with the weirdest films like Bye Bye Birdie. I will find something that identifies so heavily with me, and I will love that character for being that person for me. And what I identified with Rebecca, but I appreciated how Crawl loved her without ever saying it.
Yeah.
The whole movie, he never says he loves her.
It.
But it doesn't need to be said. And he's not that great an actor.
No, though there are moments. There are moments.
But no, I'm saying
because he's playing himself.
Pauly Shore is not that great of an actor in this, but he doesn't have to be because he's being, and I'm not going to I'm going to say the word sincere, even though that's a Bye Bye Birdie thing. But Rebecca loves that sincerity, and you can tell, and she doesn't change who she is. So when I saw this, it moved me, despite it being this silly comedy. And I think a comedy's supposed to move you. I think comedy is not supposed to just make you laugh, but there are supposed to be moments in it that spike other emotions. It's kind of like a dance party. If you have all the same music, it just kind of blends in one to the other. You got to have something that changes up the tempo.
Yeah.
And in this film, it does it a couple of times. One is when Rebecca changes, and the other one's towards the end. And we'll talk about that later with Tiffany, who her character is Tracy. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. How did this make you feel as a cis woman?
When I was younger?
So a cis girl.
Not really. I mean, I was not that much. I mean, I think at the time I was still in that fantasy world that I love the idea of somebody coming and, sweeping me off my feet and doing the montage of change and her being able to be who she was. And I think based on where I was mentally in my life at that time, I craved that idea of having that freedom that she had at that moment. I didn't go to college as a kid, or, as a teen or something, young person. I didn't do the whole dorm life and the freedoms. And I didn't really know that type of freedom until much later in life. And so there was a bit of jealousy. But overall, I remember I enjoyed the movie. It was funny. I didn't see the problems that I see with it now. But that's, again, looking at it through a lens of understanding the problems of, the fat phobia and the sexism and stuff like that. I think overall, when I was younger, I definitely just related. Yeah, I related to her, and I kind of wanted that crazy guy in my life. I wanted that person in my life that would have just make everything fun and just wild. And that was just that I related to that. And
it's weird too, because we met in California. And this was a while back.
Before the movie came out.
Right.
No, actually, it was the year. Yeah, right around the time the movie came out.
It was right at the time. So I'm not sure when exactly we both saw this. We didn't see it together.
No, I think I probably saw it after I left California because we didn't have TV in California.
I didn't own a television. And neither did you.
No, we had a TV. We just didn't have it hooked up to anything. So we couldn't really watch
that makes
it.
a lot of sense. We both saw it later. I think I saw it when I was living in Memphis, Tennessee. And I think it was a couple of years after this.
And I think it was when I moved back home to Jersey that I saw it. But my ex did not like Pauly Shore movies, so I don't remember watching it with him, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's not his style.
No,
it really wasn't his. It was always yours, though. I think.
I always liked the silly guys. I've always liked, that was what even just, like dating wise, I always liked the silly guys in my life. So for me, it definitely would have been a Pauly Shore fan. And,
well, you married a silly girl, so I think that worked out.
Well, yeah, but it's funny because like I was looking at, like when you're younger and you don't necessarily think people are like attractive. You're like, they're okay looking. And then you like are much older and you look back and you're like, wow, he was a cutie or she was really pretty. And I'm looking at Pauly Shore when we were watching this and I'm going, he was really cute. I don't remember feeling that way other than liking his silliness, but I don't remember feeling like any like...
Oh, no, I thought he was cute back then.
I mean, he was cute, but I think it was just because he was the dorky weirdo.
Well, he's so
cute.
over the top that it's hard to focus on any one thing about him.
But he's got a pretty face.
Yeah, I think...
He's got a very pretty face.
I think that, he's conventionally attractive.
And those curls.
If he were to tone his thing down, I think he probably could have transitioned to other roles.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's still attractive. If you see him now, he's still a good-looking guy.
But, his parents, they actually co-founded the Comedy Store.
Yes.
In L.A.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a staple in the comedy business.
Mm-hmm.
Stand-ups, that's where they go to make their bones. His parents, until Mitzi's, his mother's death, they ran the place, and his father, I think, still does it to this day.
Yeah. I'm honestly, I didn't look at his parents, but...
Well, he comes from comedy. They were always steeped in comedy, and he grew up steeped in it. Mm-hmm. And you can tell because he developed that character so well, and it had a large run throughout the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that, like I said, we were saying before, it's Pauly. Regardless of which character he's playing Pauly. But I think that's what's endearing is you don't, that's definitely a typecast. You're playing yourself, but he's good at it. Why mess up the formula, really?
Well, I think at the time that's what people wanted, and he played out the weasel.
Yeah.
As long as he could.
I do think that Biodome was the end of it, right? I mean, I feel like that was like the one where people were just like, okay, we're done.
I think attitudes were changing, comedy was changing, and the direction that movies were going. We are by no means expert in movies, music, or anything else.
No.
But we are avid fans of pretty much all of it. Mm-hmm. I know a little bit more about movies. Michelle knows a little bit more about music. We both know books pretty well. And we're going to have people in that know more than us on these things.
Definitely.
So where we are with Crawl is that he's sad because it is Thanksgiving.
He's not sad, though. He was like, okay, was going to go to Vegas, but that fell through.
But you can tell that his plans that fell through was his mom that he names by her first name, mm-hmm. so they don't have a close relationship.
Yeah.
So him kind of losing that, you can tell that is supposed to be him being sad, but still finding that upper weasel to kind of defeat that.
Yeah.
And Rebecca kind of centers on that and realizes this is a good way to maybe deflect from that phone call she got earlier from her ex-boyfriend
mm-hmm.
or current boyfriend at the time,
boyfriend,
Travis, and who is going to maybe ask her to marry him.
She suspects.
Right. So she figures if she brings Crawl, then that will be a nice deflection and will probably help mitigate some of that attention from her.
She looks at him trying to figure out how to cook his hungry man turkey dinner in the microwave. Ew. And she tells him, nope, you're going to come with me. And you're going to go to South Dakota.
And he is jazzed.
He's excited.
He's very excited, which tells me he's never been to South Dakota.
Now, keep in mind, she has now gone from very long brown hair to short reddish blonde hair. She's now sporting a little butterfly tattoo on her ankle. She's wearing the crazy 90s clothes of the avant-garde. She's just, blossomed into this young woman of a new freedom that she has found. Kind of, she's wanting it all.
Changed.
She's definitely changed.
But on the outside she has changed a lot. And you could tell that this is still at a point where she hasn't really changed on the inside.
Yeah, she is still a child. I mean, she's definitely, especially later on when she gets mad at her mom and she's like, I'm an adult. And she slams her foot and like bounces like a child would. And you're like, yeah, no. That's not an adult move right there. But yeah, she's still inside a child. And her and Crawl fly home to North Dakota and they see the family for the first time. And the family sees them. And the parents are just like,
their jaws drop. Yeah.
And she goes up to her parents and greets them by their first name, not by mom and dad.
Which is a very like tropey way to introduce yourself, is to come up and say to your mother and father and use their first names and see if that flies.
Yes.
That would never have flown in my house.
And
so I never
would
tried
not
it.
have flown in mine, regardless of the fact that my children never call me mom. So they never call me mom. They come up with their 1,001 other names to call me that are like Madriana, mother. And I it's weird, but no, I would never have called my mom by her first name, though our youngest does refer to us, and she has for many years with her friends. All of her friend group, they all go by their mom's first names. And they know. And so, like, she'll call me Michelle, and she's like, oh, yeah, well, we said, well, Michelle did this. And I'm like, who? Who? And I mean, now I wouldn't care, but when she was younger, I was like, what are you talking about?
Well, I'm glad that she calls me Beth because she doesn't just say mom too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But so then she goes and sees her brother, and her brother is like, not gonna lie, he was a little creeper when they were at the dorm room, going through the girlfriend, or not the girlfriend.
I know, he's a creeper through most of the film.
That's true. They were talking about boobs when they were talking about the cows' udders. Cones.
Yes, a lot of that. Yeah, he just goes into the roommate's dresser and starts pulling out panties and bras.
And put it on his head because he couldn't hear anything. He didn't want to hear the dad's voice.
And to further, nail home the idea that you're in California and it's an alternative lifestyle there, the roommate looks pretty much like Rebecca does at the time, before she does her makeover, but she has a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. So insert obligatory lesbian couple with the obligatory male gaze at the lesbian couple.
As they kiss, and the brother,
and
Zach,
the father, because he had that little smirk on his face.
But the brother, Zach, asks for a camera.
Yes.
To take a photo.
And even mom was a bit shocked.
Right. So they go home. He is enjoying himself on the ride there.
They are shocked by him, utterly.
He's in the back of the truck.
Singing Green Acres.
Singing Green Acres, having a ball, banging on the top of the hood. When they get there, he runs all over the place, chasing chickens, things like that. So he's
enthralled by this farm.
Kind of, again, over the top, a lot of energy, and they don't know what to do with him at that point. But Becca is nonplussed about the entire thing because that's her friend.
That's her friend.
And she doesn't seem...
She's used to him now.
She doesn't try to make excuses for him.
Exactly.
She just does her thing, and the parents are left to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, then they just don't know how to handle him in the least. But they also question her choices of why did you bring him home? There's just so many...
Well, Travis shows up.
Yeah. I blanked out on what happened next. I literally sat here going, what happened next?
Travis shows up. And he wants to ask a question.
Mm-hmm. And that's when they're going to that dinner that night, right?
Right.
Oh, side note, we'll come back to this little point later, but I want to add this here. Crawl has been at college for 6 years. Just remember that. He's had a lot of majors.
He's a career student.
And we'll come back to that later on because there's a very interesting point at the end of the movie that I just thought was like, huh. But so they go to that fancy dinner and it's in a country club. But first, Crawl says to Becca, I feel a bit out of place. I need the clothes so I can fit in.
So they do the montage.
They do another montage. And it really wasn't so much of a montage as her giving him a bunch of clothes and shoving him in a dressing room while she has a conversation with Tiffany Amber Thiessen, whose character Tracy she went to high school with.
And they seem cool to each other.
They do. They're
in
like,
a very...
Like, they weren't the best of friends, but you could tell they had a relationship, but they haven't spoken in months, since she gone.
I think it's cool
school.
because, well, Tracy, unbeknownst to Rebecca, has been seeing Travis.
Yes. Because there was one point where Becca calls him and they flash to him getting putting his jacket on, and he's like, "Oh my God, Tracy!" And he like picks up the phone, and it's Becca, and he's like, "Oh, he was expecting it to be Tracy." So you definitely do the impression that they are doing a thing on the sly.
So when they meet each other, they're very cool to each other because they don't really know where each of them stand.
Yes.
And out comes Crawl.
Out comes Crawl and a pair of chaps and
nothing else.
What did he call them? Cheek chillers.
Cheek chillers because they're assless chaps.
And he is not wearing pants.
Hey, I did a curse.
Assless chaps.
I did a curse word. Now we're explicit.
Yes. Well, trust me, I've been waiting all this time so I could say Travis is an asshole.
Travis is an asshole, but that's kind of his lot in life. He's
a good old boy.
Well, I wouldn't say he's a good old boy because
he's
really,
not.
He's just smarmy.
He is. He's that jock from high school who never got over being a jock.
Yeah, who is stuck in that place.
Yes.
And he knows that that's where he peaked. Mm-hmm. And that's never true in real life. In real life, jocks go on to have successful careers and everything else. Just like
this was that movie trope.
Right, just like anyone else does. But for this, he's still stuck on Becca, but he's cheating on her with Tracy. He's essentially where he was when Becca left. Mm-hmm. But that's to show the contrast between the changes that Becca has made. Now, almost all of them are on the outside in a presentation, but there are some core changes to Becca that are starting to show up. Mm-hmm. One of those being her almost Mother Teresa-like steadiness when it comes to dealing with Crawl, where she has infinite patience. She
really does, because he is very childlike. And toddler-like is really the better way.
Right.
In one of the scenes later down, and when he goes fishing with the dad, when he's sitting on the side of the river with the bucket, I kept thinking to myself, he looks like a little kid, with the bucket in his lap. Right. And he looked like such a little kid, and he was so earnest at that moment. It wasn't even just honesty, it was the earnest. He was talking to him, he was talking to him about his relationship with the Walter, the father's relationship with his father, which is Becca's grandfather.
Well, we're kind of jumping ahead.
We are jumping ahead. I can't help myself.
So after
we'll get back to that.
Let's back up a little bit because we're getting excited about the points that we've made or the things that we've seen. But let's go to some of the stuff that builds the story.
Yes.
He gets
got to keep me in line.
I have to keep myself in line, and you have to keep me in line as well. So Crawl finds his outfit. We don't know what it is because he goes back into the dressing room with the assless chaps.
Yeah, but the outfit is ridiculous.
And then Rebecca shows up at the dinner.
Yes.
In the restaurant.
Yes. So yeah. Sorry, I jumped ahead to a different scene. She's there it's like a country club.
Right.
And it looks like it was like everybody in the town goes to this specific thing. The carpet in that building, in that restaurant, first thing, who has pile carpeting like that plush pile brown
in a dining
area. It's it when you see it, but if you have lived through the 80s, you've seen this carpeting. It's brown and tannish beige, and it's like bumpy.
Every home has had it.
Ugh.
Every
It's
home from the
not-
60s and 70s still had that carpet, too.
Yeah, I mean, I remember going over friends' houses and their parents had that carpeting. That carpeting gives me the willies. I mean, it is just not nice carpeting.
So,
and it was in a dining room.
We established carpeting in the dining room.
Ew. But so then they show you.
But it does the scroll down on
his
Crawl.
And he's wearing just the bottom parts of the cowboy boots.
Right. Cut off the tops.
Yeah, so there's no boot part. It's just the toe and the sole with the heel.
Honestly, he was ahead of his time because now they have those styles and
Oh God, they're horrific.
it makes no sense, but they really, I mean, Crawl was the first one to establish
And he's
that.
wearing, was it bike shorts with the overalls?
Bike shorts
cut
with
into
the overalls.
shorts.
Right.
Oh, bumped the microphone. Sorry, guys. I talk with my hands. And he was wearing the jacket he had worn on the airplane. That
Right.
one, yeah, the
multicolored
the woven
jacket.
one,
Right.
and the cowboy hat. And was there the purple bandana at that time? Yes,
I think so.
Yes,
Yes,
the purple bandana,
Yes.
because he uses it later on to clean up his nose. So yes, he walks in with that, and of course, everybody stops dead and stares, and you know. He was like, I was feeling out of place, but now I'm feeling like I fit right in with all of you people here in North Dakota, South Dakota. South Dakota.
That's the other Dakota.
Yeah, I should know better. You know, I'm a Supernatural fan. Everything happens in South Dakota, Canada.
Canada. So he goes over to the table, and on his way over, he's talking to pretty much everyone because he has no off button.
No, none whatsoever.
And Crawl has no guile.
No.
So he's just very open as he walks through, talking to everyone.
Yep.
He sits down, and they're having their meal. Mm-hmm. And Travis wants to make his announcement. He wants to ask for her hand. And at that point, Rebecca kicks Crawl
Yes, and
under the table.
He stands up and he goes, "Oh, you're too late, Travis. I've already asked her to marry me, and she said yes."
In a more Pauly Shore kind of way.
Yeah,
Yes.
I my Pauly Shore imitation is just
It's excellent. I think you did a great job. It
buddy.
sounds just like Pauly Shore.
I'll
So-
do that, but I'll never say the weasel the right way.
The weasel.
But didn't he do the?
Yeah. So you just did ASMR on there.
Okay.
Oh,
we
and
owe you a trivia. Okay, so here's my trivia for you. The college that the film was filmed at was the California State University, Northridge, and North Dakota. See? I wrote North Dakota. Are you sure it was South Dakota?
South Dakota.
Okay. So South Dakota, because apparently I can't take notes, actually was filmed in Visalia, California. But it takes place in Thanksgiving. But there's no snow.
Right, which, as you know, is crazy. in
North
that
and
area.
South Dakota would have snow in November.
Right.
We would like to think. We're not anywhere near those states, so we think they might have snow in November.
I've been there.
Okay, well, I've never. Hopefully.
Crawl breaks the news to Travis, who is very upset.
Mm-hmm.
And
He leaves, and Becca follows him and tries to explain. So Crawl follows after Becca and Travis, and Travis turns around and punches Crawl right in the nose, and he falls. He crumbles onto the floor, crying.
Slow falls.
He does slow fall, and he is crying and rocking back and forth. And they end up in going home in the truck, and he's with that purple bandana, using it to clean up his bloody nose. And at first she's mad at him, and he's like, I panicked, it was I didn't know what else to say. You kicked me in the foot. And I was like, what do I say to stop this from happening? And then they kind of well, I guess this is what we're going to do then. And we can always break up later on after we go back to school. It's only for, a few more days. We can do this.
which is kind of what Becca wanted in the first place.
Yeah. She just wanted to be able to go home, have her little scapegoat of Crawl, and then go back to college and live the life she had been living before. God,
She just didn't count on Crawl chaos.
Yeah. I wonder what grade she was getting when she spent so much time just hanging out on Venice Beach.
I don't know. No one seems to go to class there.
They never go
It's
to
always the same shot at the college.
I know. It's either in the dorm, but you never see.
Well, there's an exterior shot when they show up, when they first show up. And then after that, it's pretty much just in that hallway.
Yeah.
So location-wise, I spent a lot of time at the beach. Right outside, I guess, the college.
Yeah.
I don't know. They seem to just be in the same area the whole time. So, yeah, Crawl has given the diversion. Maybe not the one she wanted, but the one she needed.
Her dad comes and he's like, okay, how are you planning on supporting my child if you marry her? And
which is another point. I just want to make a point here of the sexist.
Yes. I mean, she's in college for a reason. We don't know what that reason is because they don't really talk about what she was going to college to do, to learn. That's
another point. Crawl tells you specifically that he has gone for this and this and this, and we'll get to that later because I know the mathematics you're about to bring up here at the end, because obviously he didn't take a math class. But I got the math class joking.
Woohoo.
So my thing is, they mention, or in the script mentions him taking all these different classes, but never mentions her classes once.
That's true. That's true. They never once say why she was going away to college. Even like when the dad was saying, well, why can't you just go to, the state college and be closer to home? They never say what her major was or why she needed to go away to that college.
Well, she just says her for a different experience to get away. But that sounds like something you do in a tropey movie and not what you would ever do in real life. You have a plan.
So, I mean, honestly, with the way her dad reacts towards her going away to education, we can probably safely assume liberal arts.
Yeah, I guess because it would be bucking the system from the conservative parents.
Yes, and they do come off as rather conservative,
but
not
let's
really.
say conservative in a farmer
in a myopic. This is the only world we ever known. Is this country life?
Not closed-minded.
Not closed-minded at all.
Because we see later on that they do open up, and it doesn't take a lot of prodding.
No,
it just takes probably a good-hearted boy, man boy, to kind of bring in a new element to their lives.
Yes.
And that's a lot of what Crawl brings to this entire movie. And Becca is more the recipient of that ancillary kind of product where she gets to expand her horizons through him in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But also, again, that kind of brings that sexism in. I'm not going to go too deeply into that because I don't think that's the intent of this movie.
No, I think it was just the time. It was only the 90s, but still, because in our heads, the 90s were just a couple of years ago. I think that's what it was. I mean, as far as we like to say that we have come towards that type of mentality towards women in any avenue, in the 90s, we were still struggling.
I think we can safely say, given the situation,
we're still struggling. We're still struggling.
We're in quite the struggle.
I think you're just more likely to get a verbal slap for the same behaviors. You're not going to. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about seeing that in movies nowadays, but definitely. It was a reality in the early 90s, and you would see it, and that trope was still being seen because if you think about the people making these movies back then, they were still living, they were still older.
Right.
And with that same mentality of the 60s and 70s, making movies in the 80s and 90s, that sexism is going to show up.
Well, I think it's a trope for a reason. Mm-hmm. The trope is because art imitates life.
Yeah.
So when we say there's a lot of sexism during this time, it's because there was a lot of sexism being reflected from society into that.
Yeah.
But Crawl isn't, I don't think, being mean-hearted about any of his sexism.
No, I mean, because he's flattering. He's not flattering in the, hey, baby, aren't you pretty, I mean,
he does do that at the start.
He does do it in the beginning, but he's not like that with her, like,
I think
And we'll
because
see with that.
he fell in love with her.
I think so. I think spending time with her, and he flirted with her, but she didn't see that he was flirting with her. Like she really did not see.
He wasn't a threat to her.
No, and I think that's the really the point of him was he really wasn't a threat to her in the
That's
least.
true. Why would she bring him home? Because he's not
safe.
a threat.
He's safe. So my least favorite part of this movie is coming up because I can't stand Theo. I couldn't stand him even when the first time I saw it. You're not supposed to like him. I mean, he's
Right.
another piece of shit. He's
Honestly, when he first came up, and I'll say this about the movie the first time that I saw it, when Theo, which I don't actually, do you have the,
no, I didn't write his name down.
okay, and we have all these devices in the world now where we can Google things, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to say Travis. When this man, or not Travis, sorry, Theo.
Theo.
When Theo showed up, when I first saw this, I expected him to kind of fall in love with Crawl.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna be oh, look at this kid, he's funny,
Well, I thought he would give him a hard time.
Yeah, but
and then a little later on, be the one that supports him.
Yeah.
But that did not come to fruition. I was
so disappointed in him. Like,
right.
And the way he treats him it's malicious.
Well, it's almost like they were writing it. And I don't know what the reality is here, but it felt like the way it was written is like halfway through they decided, nah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just not.
We're just not gonna go
I'm just
there.
not
No.
gonna. I'm not gonna make him like Crawl because we need someone to do the thing that he's gonna do at the end.
Yes.
Which I have a very serious problem with.
Oh no, I agree.
For so many reasons. But tell us about Theo.
He is such a dick.
Thank you. I'm glad someone said it. I was worried no one was going to say he was a dick, but here we are.
Here we are.
We're in Dickville.
Here we are in Dickville. Sorry, I lost my slipper. It slipped
Did
off.
you find it?
No, but I wrapped my feet in the blanket. My office is very cold. So Theo is his task is to teach Crawl about the farm, because when Dad said, hey, how are you going to support Becca, because God forbid Becca do anything but become like her mom, who is a stay-at-home mom, and hey, nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom, but if that's what you're expected to do, then here comes some more bad words, fuck you. She wanted to go and be a modern 90s woman and get a college education, and her mom was supportive of that, but Dad sees it as, what is she going to do? She's going to be a mom just like her mom is. So, Crawl, how are you going to support my daughter?
I think this is a way for him to also get a dig at Crawl and show that he can't do it.
Exactly.
So that Rebecca will leave him and, see someone better like
Travis. So,
and Theo, by the way, is a farmhand. And
he's a farmhand.
Only farmhand.
On this massive farm.
Well, you get the sense that it's got to be a massive farm.
But also...
And they have the big house and everything, but there's one farmhand and like 4 pigs and
That's
like
true.
8 chickens. I'm
not sure how you're...
I know they're
it's
giving,
a cornfield. The cornfield.
Right. They're giving the illusion of a farm. I understand that, but it kind of loses that feel when you only have the one farmhand.
They have a cow.
Right. That's true.
They do have
a cow. Oh, no, a bull. They have a bull.
And they have a cow.
No, I'm saying they also have a bull.
Oh, yeah, they have the bull. So he asks him what he's going to do, and he says, I could be a farmer just like you, and I can take over the farm when you're dead.
No, when you retire.
When you retire.
Implying
yes.
You'll be dead.
You'll be dead. So, again, Theo takes him out to show him how to work the farm, and as in true Pauly Shore fashion, he comes out there in a tie-dyed sweatshirt, the overall cut-off shorts, the boots, the hat, and immediately he gets knocked into a pile of horse shit. Face first.
Or cow shit. We're not really sure which shit it
is. It was manure of some form. And, and then the pitchfork, it was just overly done and dramatic. And then him showing him how to feed the cows and, and then pushing him pretty much into the trough. And then when he fed the pigs and telling him to get on the other side of the fence and then letting the other pig run through to knock him over. It was just a lot of shit moves.
Well, see, we know that Travis is a bad guy.
We know
see
that
that he's a bad guy.
We know
Theo
he's
is
cheating.
the unexpected bad guy.
Yeah, you thought he would be more supportive in helping Crawl learn how to maneuver the farm. And maybe not at first, but be a little bit better than what he was.
I think it might be the actor himself.
Taking...
Seems like a sweet guy.
Yeah.
And may have had a hard time really directing that kind of asshole energy.
Yeah, I honestly
maybe
don't know.
Maybe that's the confusion.
It's just he's not... I mean, his character's just not nice. There's no... okay, so you're trying, so maybe I'll be a bit nicer to you and show you that. Because I could see him being standoffish at first and being a big jerk
just
about it.
Just like the family.
Yeah, because, he's going out there to work with him and show him the ropes, not knowing if he's going to be capable or even want to put the effort in, and being a dick then. But then when he sees that Crawl is trying to learn how to do these things, even if he doesn't know how to do them, you would think that he would be a bit more, I'm going to give the kid a break. No, He doesn't. He just goes out of his way to be even a bigger dick. So then...
This is that series of amusing culture clashes for Crawl, who doesn't know how to do things, and Theo is setting him up to fail each and every time.
Exactly. And then at that point, Becca's mom comes out and she rings the triangle of cliche, come and get it. And everybody comes in, and...
Well, in the 90s, they didn't really have the phones.
It's true. The lack of cell phones was a little disturbing.
No one had their beepers on.
No one had their beepers.
So they had to use the triangle soundy thing.
Beeping each other on their beepers.
Come and get it, beep, beep.
So they're all coming into this traditional... I mean, there was so much food on that table for a lunch for as many people. There were, 6 people at the table?
Well, see, now, I grew up on a farm.
7 people.
Okay? Well, I didn't grow up on the farm because my father wasn't a farmer, but I grew up in a farming community.
Yeah.
Now, granted, not South Dakota, but where I grew up, when we had lunch, we had bologna sandwiches on white bread and ate it with our dirty hands because you ate it out in the field or wherever you were. So this setup seems great.
I mean, there was bread and there was fried chicken and it was funny because right as he's passing the plate,
it was a Norman Rockwell.
It was a very Norman Rockwell meal, but it was funny because when he's passing the bowl of fried chicken to Pauly, and he's like, and 8 of my chickens disappeared, and you're going, well, there they are.
Exactly. The math.
So he, they're eating, and then Pauly comes in, and prior to this, he had tried to milk a cow in the wrong direction and ended up getting behind the cow. And I don't know what he was doing. His hands were cold or something. I don't know. That cow peed all over his head, and it was ridiculous.
I do like the oops wrong button.
Wrong button. So he comes in, and he's kind of not fazed by any of this. He
looks a little dejected when he walks in, but I think he perks up over the meal.
He does. He's like, ooh, food. Hey, that's me.
Sorry, grindage.
The grindage. I really wished I had looked up my favorite Pauly Shore quote. It's not from that movie, but when he's talking about, like, if I had grindage at my pad, the way you guys... I'll have to find it. It's really funny. But regardless, he's not dejected about it. He's not put down. And he's like, I'm a farmer. And they're like, no, you're not. And he's willing to keep going.
He's like, I did the stuff. I'm still doing it. I'm going to get better.
Yeah. And then, the dad just starts talking at him, talking shit at him. And
well, he's getting angry because this is a man who has done this job his whole life. Mm-hmm. And this is his life. And he feels like this kid has stepped in and he thinks it's so easy.
But he didn't. He said, I underestimated. He did say, this is, you bust your butt. He did say that, not so many words.
Acknowledge that. That's
he
true.
acknowledged that this was harder than he thought it was going to be. So you would think that
he would give them a break.
But no, they did not. And Grandpa, he's a little butthead too. And these kids, everything that happens at that table, all he keeps saying is, these kids are out of control. These kids are out of control. And that's kind of like the whole fight.
But what I like is when the fight progresses, and it's actually the father, Walter, not Walter Sr., who is yelling and who's upset. He says, these kids are out of control. He's reflecting his father. That was very purposeful. You can tell the writers have been at that table before.
Exactly. And Mom is defending Crawl and Becca,
Right.
and she's like, I thought, he's like, this is what happens. We sent her away to college, and she's like, we made that decision. And I'm thinking to myself, wait, it's her going to college. How did you make that decision? And then his response was, what was it like?
You made that decision.
But he was like, she's like something about how she helps him, and he's like, no, not all the time, or something like that. It was very, again, that woman in her place type
gender
of thing.
role.
Yeah,
it was very gender role.
And so then Crawl threatens he's going to leave in the most dramatic way. He gets up.
It's so over the top.
I'm going to leave. And he stops and he looks behind him. And then he walks a little bit further. And then he looks behind him. And it is so pathetic. And
but the whole table is watching him. And each of them have a different expression on their face.
And then eventually Becca, because he goes, I have to get my clothes. And Becca, she goes up to help him. And they have, a bit of an argument and about, the whole situation and about the faking of the wedding thing once again. And it comes to terms that they are just going to keep on keeping on. He's not going to leave. He'll stay, but he's doing it for her.
Right.
And then square dance.
The square dance. I think it's honestly the
highlight. It's a highlight.
It's the laugh out loud part that I did it when we watched it just earlier. There was the one part where I laughed out loud. Most of the stuff that goes on in the movie is amusing. If you've seen it before, you're not going to laugh out loud.
It's not a tear, laugh till you cry type of thing.
No, a lot of it's cringe, which is fine. Cringe has its place in comedy. But the square dance is cringe as well as laugh out loud, I believe.
I agree.
It's mostly physical comedy, but it's still pretty funny.
Yeah. Before they go to the square dance, and Becca gets ready.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes. And
oh my God.
They start to get ready. Now the grandfather's not going. He's staying to whittle.
That's what he does.
He does.
That's
he
his
whittles.
whole role in the household
is literally
to make
retiree
small wooden figurines for whatever people happen to walk by. I'm not really sure what they do with them.
Yeah.
He's always whittling a new one, and I don't know where he's putting them. Honestly, I think they burn it for fuel.
Probably.
And they're not telling Grampy.
So he walks into the bathroom thinking it's Becca, and he comes up behind her wrapped in a towel, and he hugs her, and it turns out Mom's name is Colleen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Connie.
Okay. Connie. It's Connie wrapped in a towel. And then, the conversation.
First of all, who has a bathroom door open while they're in a towel?
With a stranger in the house.
With a stranger in the house. Well, anybody. And you're bent over picking stuff up and you're just in a towel. I'm sorry. Who does that?
I not with strangers in my house specifically there. But so they have a conversation and he's like, you're beautiful. And you really, if you were in California, you got
it going on.
Yeah. So
the whole package.
Yeah. And he convinces her to let him dress her up for that night.
Right.
So Becca and her dad leave ahead of time.
Because the mom says,
yeah,
Connie says,
I'm not done getting ready. We'll take the other car.
Right.
And so the other two, they go to the square dance, and they're dancing and talking, and
they're doing a little line dancing.
Yes.
Little light line dancing.
What was the song that was playing?
Boot Scoot Boogie.
Boot Scoot Boogie.
I think that was big then.
That was big then. So. And then
They probably paid a lot of money to put that music in the movie.
I wonder. And then they show up Crawl and Connie, and Crawl walks in first, and then Connie comes in that pink halter top,
right,
with the rainbow headband and the handkerchief skirt.
I have to say though, Cindy Pickett is a beautiful woman.
She is.
Even at the age she is in the movie, she's a beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
So dressing her up doesn't hurt at all.
No.
And they didn't do too badly.
No, and
yes, it was a little
tacky, but it wasn't. It was 90s tacky.
It's supposed to be. It was supposed to be tacky because it's what she had.
It's what she had.
And what he had.
Yeah.
And they just put it together.
And I'm thinking he did her makeup and,
right,
the whole look. Crawl maybe should have gone into design,
cosmetology.
Cosmetology of some form. So Dad, wait, what was the
Walter,
line?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was the line that Crawl says? He's like, I gave him some wood or something like that.
Gave him half a wood or
something like that. And you're like, oh my God, dude. They talk about her parents having sex in uncomfortable ways. And
but
it's
Rebecca
like,
doesn't blink an
I know.
eye.
And I would be like, ew.
Which to me pulls me out of the movie.
Kind of, yeah. Because in reality is nobody wants to think about their parents having sex in any universe. No,
not helpful at all.
No. So yeah, that is definitely.
But they're having a good time. They're having a good time
the parents
at the square dance,
and Mom and Dad are like doing their thing.
They're into each other. Yeah, and you can tell he is so in love with his wife,
mm-hmm,
and that maybe that a lot of the tension they have is because they're sleeping in two separate beds.
Oh my God. And you don't know that until later on when they get home.
Right.
And they're going to get jiggy.
But I think it's because they are so conservative in
mm-hmm,
the way they do things that they're really just repeating the crimes of the past.
Yes.
We always want to try to not repeat what our parents have done. And you see this come up so many times in this movie where the parents are reflected in the grandparent and Walter Sr. and Walter. They and then you see it reflected in
with Becca
her brother
and
Zach.
Mm-hmm. And Becca. Yeah, both of them.
And Becca, but a lot in Zach because what you're seeing are the male counterparts in that specifically gendered way.
Well, also like she's trying to break away from the stereotype that is her mom, the stay-at-home mom, the
Very
cook,
true.
That's her life. And Zach is trying to break away from the farming life. He's
into computers.
He's into computers. Pauly Shore hacks his computer, that whole movie hack, which
is the worst.
We will bring that up multiple times throughout our podcast. When you see those quote unquote hackers and all they're doing is key smashing and not actually.
Well, even they show the screen and he's basically just typing
gibberish,
ASCII symbols. It doesn't mean anything, and he's not programming anything, but it's just kind of funny, and it does a dissolve on the screen, and it
fixes it.
It's all very 90s. Their idea of computer hacking.
Was that an 8088?
So, yeah, I think a lot of this is about breaking those barriers, breaking repetition of the past, and this is with Rebecca as well, because
mm-hmm,
she does change, and that the square dance, again, breaking tradition.
mm-hmm.
So instead, the person that calls out the square dance, see, I never actually attended a square dance, even though I grew up in a farming community, but oddly enough, Michelle has dealt with square dances because she was taught it in school
in New Jersey,
in the North, which is just so weird to me. It's like y'all were studying my life that I never actually did.
I can't remember the first year I did it, but maybe it was in 6th grade.
I think only Northerners do square dances.
From 6th grade all the way through high school, we did one unit every year in PE. We did square dancing.
So who was the announcer?
It was a record. So we had to follow the record. We would learn all the steps.
But did they teach you the position, like the person that does it, what he's called, the auctioneer?
I don't remember what the person is called. And
okay, so you failed that course.
I haven't been in school in so long. But, hey, my 30-year class reunion is coming up.
Are we going?
No, I didn't go to the
We're not
10
going?
and 20 and 25.
I'm hot. I am the whole package.
I'm not going back to Jersey.
I'll dress in
sorry.
that skirt and everything with the bustier. No? Okay.
So we learned how to do the steps, the partnering, the bowing to the corners, and all that other stuff, and you had a do-si-do, and then they would play the records for us.
I think you might have been at a rally.
No, it was PE.
Oh, okay. It was at school.
Yes, and I could tell you some fun stories about my dance partner in high school. He was the only person I ever pushed into a locker.
Oh, you bullied a fellow student?
He didn't bully me. He spread rumors about me.
Oh, so you beat him up.
I just pushed him into a locker.
We'll say that's beat up.
That works.
You beat him.
Okay, so at the square dance, Travis shows up. And once again, Pauly is on the floor, feet in the air, like a toddler, going, "Don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me." He trauma response right down to the ground. And keep this in mind for later on, once again. And then Becca ends up like getting Travis to leave, and they talk. I don't remember it being anything consequential that they really talk about, but the announcer,
she puts him off, and then Travis leaves.
the caller, or whatever you want to call him for the square dance.
Oh, no, wait. Isn't that when Travis says, I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to invite you.
He
invites
him to...
I want to throw you a
That's
bachelor
what it was.
party.
Bachelor party.
She doesn't get into an argument with him.
No, he doesn't.
He plays a nice guy.
Yes.
Very
He's like,
smarmy.
I want to have a bachelor party for you. For Pauly Shore's character, Crawl.
Who accepts it readily.
Because he is like party hardy.
Because he has no guile.
No.
He doesn't think anything of it.
No, and I don't think he thinks the worst of people or that people have bad side until they show that bad side.
And even then, I think he kind of accepts it. I think, again, that's the thing with a parent that he never goes into.
Yeah, because he does kind of skate over his mom being...
I know I'm adding a lot of things into this.
Because we don't know.
But it's all subtext, I believe, to the movie.
Yeah, the movie doesn't really give you a lot of the details, so you kind of have to jump those bridges on your own and, put those 2 points together. So yes, Travis invites him, says, "Hey, we're going to have a bachelor party for you." And... that's when the caller steps off stage to get a little drink. And
a caller?
Caller? I'm assuming that's what you call him.
we're going to say that's a caller.
That's a caller.
Sounds good.
We'll have to look that one up for y'all. But I have become such a Southerner.
You really have. You just yawled.
I yawled a lot, didn't I? I yawled in the beginning, too.
Howdy, y'all.
Shush. I can't help it.
I know, it's adorable.
So the Pauly Shore, Crawl, he jumps on that stage. And he starts doing the calls for the square dance in true weasel fashion. And he is what
did he say?
Buff the wood.
Buff the wood. And if your chicken is finger licking?
If your chick is finger licking, yeah. And then there was one about something about having cones and...
Yeah, it gets a little bit crazy.
It gets a bit crazy.
But the weird thing, of course, this is all written in, but...
Then the guy comes back and he's like, no.
But the crowd is enjoying it. Like all these very conservative, older people...
are loving it, and they're having so much fun with it.
Even though you can't understand anything that Crawl is saying.
No, Buff the Wood could have been anything. And it was...
But they're rubbing butts.
Yeah, they were rubbing
that's
butts.
What they're doing.
That's not what I would have thought they would be doing.
Tina would be happy.
Bob's Burgers reference 1000.
So, yeah, Crawl is making the calls. The caller comes back.
And is like, no. And he's like, oh, please. And he's like, no, but look, they're having fun. Are you having fun? And they're like, yeah. So he's like, okay, fine. And then it ends up like the banjo guy's into it. There's some heavier guitar going on. Everybody is into it at that point. So the party,
Hold on. And then Crawl does a stage dive.
Oh, he does the stage dive. I forgot about the stage dive. So he does a stage dive.
Which is the part at which I laughed was right after that.
Oh my God. You do a stage dive at a square dance. And then they
caught him.
They got him. And then he gets back on stage. And then he convinces the old guy, the caller, to jump off the stage, and he does, and parted
no
like
one
the Red Sea, and he went down. But then he jumps back up like, yeah, I'm good.
okay. And that's when I laughed.
Yeah, that was actually funny. Because I remembered it, but also it was like, oh shit!
I forgot that he popped back up.
Yeah,
that made it.
That's
funnier.
what it was funny about.
Like he popped up like a kid that had just finished his first beer bong. You know,
Exactly.
yeah.
So they end up going back to the house, and that mom and dad, Walter and
Very
Connie,
Randy.
yeah, they're gonna go bump some uglies upstairs, and Becca goes in the house after they see Grandpa sitting there, and
They
then
scoot the two beds.
they put the two beds together. But then Crawl's like, I'm gonna go whittle with Grandpa for a bit, and he sits down next to the old man, and the old man's like, oh shit.
He literally says, "Oh
Yeah.
shit!"
And he tells him to go. He's like, "Can you teach me how to whittle?" And he goes, "Fine, go get some wood." And he comes back with this big ass log.
log?
It's not even like just a regular size log. It's big. So they talk for a minute. What were they talking? They were just talking.
Well, they were talking about the same situation.
Yeah,
that, Walter was talking
because he kept saying to Walter, Grandpa kept saying to Walter, I need to talk to you, son. And he's like, not now.
Right.
And do we ever find out what he wanted to talk to him about? I don't think they ever
I think a lot of what it is, it's not necessarily what he wanted to talk about so much as it was about
talking,
because they just don't communicate.
Probably.
Just like Zach and Walter don't communicate.
And you're right, because I don't remember. I kept waiting for there to be a resolve, and there was no resolve of what he needed to talk to him about.
Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff is left open for you to think that Kroll maybe opened the door for them to communicate with each other, but you don't actually see that communication. So it just kind of resolves itself. So
then we fast forward, right, a bit to the next day.
Right.
And it is the
morning.
And I think Kroll goes out and does more farm work, but this time he's a little bit more...
This time he's prepared. And they do the exact same thing that he did the previous day, except in which Theo was messing with him.
But he was prepared for the mess up. So instead of coming up with new ideas, he did the same shit. And then Kroll kind of like...
He did it right.
Yeah, like he got all the...
Like he couldn't be messed with.
Yeah. And
the father sees that.
Yeah.
Walter goes by and sees that Kroll is doing it his own way, but he's still getting the job done.
Yes. And then...
Which is a recurring theme.
Yes, he's doing it in his own way.
Doing things your own way, despite the fact that someone else established their own way before that.
So it's a good way to go against the norm.
Right.
And you don't have to keep going in this way, the standard way, because you can
that's
still...
what we're going to get into with the fishing.
Yes.
So,
so they go fishing first, right? Yeah, it's fishing and then the bachelor party.
Right. Fishing first.
Fishing first. But no, before all of that is the big... what is that thing?
The combine.
Combine. Yeah. I was going to say a turbine, but I knew that was wrong. The combine. I did not grow up in farmland, though it is the Garden State. I did not.
Very expensive machine, and somehow he just starts it right up.
He starts it right up, but he puts on some John Denver because thank God I'm a country boy, you know. and it's got this big tarp on it, but of course he can't see that it's moving. Like you wouldn't feel that it was moving, but he couldn't tell it was moving until the tarp got caught and pulled off the machinery.
Then he knew, but didn't panic. He just went woohoo,
woohoo, and I'm going to keep on driving. Me, I would have been like, oh shit, put it in park. However, I don't know how I would have done it, but
he just starts driving into a cornfield.
He does.
Is conveniently one square.
Exactly. And he's, harvesting that corn, and they're trying to chase after him. And Walter was yelling at Theo, I told you to watch him. And he's, they're chasing after him, and he's going bumping all over. I mean, come on, at least follow the rows of the corn. But then what you realize is once he gets out of the field, he wrote his name in the cornfield.
Yeah, it does a
script
a big shot of the overview.
Yeah, the
and you
aerial,
see-
yeah.
Right, and you see that crawl is written in cursive in the cornfield.
Those thousands and thousands of dollars of damage. I mean, and before that, when Theo was messing with him,
He broke the fence.
he broke the fence and the first time around because he was like, how are you going to pay for all of this? And he's like, I'm a farmer. That's when he told him I'm a farmer.
Right.
So that all happened. And then Dad is going to go out fishing with... So Walter and his grandfather and Walter Sr. are going to go out fishing. And they want Zach to come with them. And Zach doesn't want to go, but Crawl wants to go. And much bickering happens.
At first he's reticent, but the mother, Connie, she says, take him.
Yeah.
Because they kind of owe him for the night's booty call.
Kind of do. And she's looking good now with that new haircut and everything because he cut her hair. I mean, she's even the next morning, she's looking pretty good.
She had a glow up.
She did have. And so they go fly fishing, which, okay, side note, I am terrified of fish hooks. It is one of my biggest fears. Growing up on the shore, I've seen hook injuries, and fly fishing just makes my skin crawl even on a movie. So just the idea of them whipping that shit back and forth, I'm just, I hate it so much. But regardless, they go fly fishing.
I've never seen fly fishing outside of running water. They were doing it in a pond.
I know they were. It was weird.
Maybe that's true. I don't do a lot of fishing. I mean, when I was a kid, I did, but I didn't do fly fishing ever.
I've never even been around people who are doing fly fishing because you don't do that. I don't know. I've never seen people doing it on the ocean either. But even then, hooks flying through the air freak me out.
So it seems like it's basically a standard time in which the guys go fishing.
Yes.
Another gendered thing. Mm-hmm. But it's Walter Sr., Walter, and of course now Crawl instead of Zach.
And I loved Crawl's hat with all of the lures sticking out of it.
All the lures.
All the lures that you could think of were sticking out of this hat.
He had lure everywhere.
and Walter Jr., Dad, is trying to show him how to do the fly fishing and showing him, one hand and do with your wrist. And he goes, then throw it. And so he throws the whole rod and reel into the pond, lake, river, whatever it is. And he's like, I'm so sorry. She's like, no, you can just... Don't worry about it. Hold the bucket. And that's when Pauly Shore is sitting on the side and he looks like, a
child,
kid.
Yeah.
But before that, the grandfather,
Walter Sr.
and Walter have a bickering fight over about how they do the fly fishing. I don't know why you do it this way and I do it that way.
Right. And this is where you see Walter Sr. reflecting what Walter has been saying to Zach is you're doing it wrong. This is the way you do it. And Walter is saying to Walter Sr., this is just the way I do it.
Yeah,
it's not bad that you do it your way, but this isn't my way. This is the way I do it because this is the way I like it.
And he says, give me some room. And then when Grandpa walks away, Pauly sits on the side by him with that bucket in his lap. And he's, saying, I really feel bad for you in your relationship with your dad. And he's like, oh, well, it's just, how we are. And he's like, yeah, well, that's kind of how you and Zach are together, where, Zach has his thing. Well, he's got those silly video games. He's like, yeah, but those aren't silly to him. That's what he likes. And is he asking, and that's the thing, is he asking you to play with him? And that is kind of the thing. When you have, when you look at your child and you're like, oh, why are they into those stupid things? I don't understand it.
They're not asking you to do it.
Yeah, they're not asking you to do it. They're not asking you to be a part of it, but you should just, if they're not hurting anybody and they're not hurting themselves, let them be.
If they're doing something a different way than you, maybe it's just their way.
I have nailed in a shelf with a mug, a cup, a literal porcelain cup.
I use a hammer.
Yeah, I didn't have a hammer. I didn't have a hammer at the time. And did the shelf go up? Yes, it did. And it held many a can. So it doesn't mean that I was wrong. It just means that it was a way to look at it differently. And that's kind of like, I feel like that's the ongoing message in this movie is, and it wasn't the right thing. That cup could have broken, but it's not the point. The point is I did it differently, and he could have, it's showing that you can do things differently.
And he's being very conciliatory. When Crawl is saying these things, he's putting up his hand saying, look,
I'm not trying to be an ass. But this is
I'm
how
not
I
trying to
see
tell
it.
you how to run your family. I'm telling you what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And so, what he had said to his dad about, I need, you need to give me some room, and the old man walking off. Well, that's when Crawl says to Walter, maybe you need to give Zach some room,
Right.
to be who he is. And then, of course, at that point, Grandpa starts having an episode where he's,
Grampy,
he's, I guess he has a heart condition or something because he's got pills. He starts to fall over. And,
you're led to believe it's nitroglycerin.
Yeah,
glycerin pills.
So Walter runs back to the truck to get the pills, and and Crawl. I keep wanting to say Pauly, and
Who
Crawl.
had half a semester.
He had half a semester of CPR, and he did not do it right because he did not check airways, because it's ABC, people. You check the airways, you check the breathing.
And he was still breathing, yet he was going to continue and try to blow into his mouth.
He was gonna give him mouth to mouth, and then the old man sees him, and he's like, he was gonna kiss me. And he's like, between dying or what was it? Between having a heart attack and getting kissed by him, I'd rather die.
Right.
So
he takes his pills, and they take him home.
yes, and they talk. The ladies are doing their thing, and they come home and they see that Grandpa had an episode, and they talk about that, and they go in the house, and they're arguing about something. I can't remember what they were arguing about right before Travis showed up.
I can't remember because that wasn't the focus.
It really wasn't.
The argument was just like the background noise to what was about to happen.
Or maybe they were just fawning over Grandpa. I don't remember, because it was just a matter of, I just remember Crawl going, that's my ride, and I'm out of here. You're on your own. You guys deal with this.
No, that was the turkey.
Oh, it was the turkey. Okay, so they send him out to kill the turkey for Thanksgiving. So I'm assuming this
Theo
sends him out. So the bachelor party is taking place on Thanksgiving Eve.
Right. So
before that, Theo takes him out and tells him that he has to go and kill the turkey. And
kill the turkey.
Bob's Burgers reference. Blah, blah, blah. We make a lot of those. Not a sponsor. And so he stuns they think the turkey had a heart attack. He scares him.
See, Theo gives him a cleaver and puts him in an enclosed cage and tells him, get that turkey, behead him. And he doesn't really know what to do, but the turkey comes at him, and true, weasel fashion, runs away screaming in a circle around the thing while the turkey chases him.
Mm-hmm.
And out of fear, Crawl screams, or he howls. He howls like a wolf, and the turkey passes out.
And so you see him passed out inside the sink in the kitchen. And
where they moved him.
Yeah, where they moved the turkey. And he's like, I never killed anything before. He's like, because they're like, it died of a heart attack, And so he's like, well, now you have to pluck it. And so he goes and plucks it, and the turkey wakes up and starts flying around the house, and that's what it was.
Causing
they were all chaos. And then the horn beeps outside, and he's like, there's my ride.
I think that we were just superimposing arguments in the house that happened quite a bit.
So maybe that was what it was.
But yeah, so he leaves with Travis.
They go to a bar.
They're still trying to catch the turkey at that point.
And really it goes to Crawl on stage singing karaoke.
I just want to point out that now we have a bull, a cow, 6 pigs, maybe 8 chickens because it's hard to count them, and now 1 turkey.
And 1 turkey.
So that is the farm so far.
Yeah. Well, there were cows when he was feeding him the grain. Remember, they had all their heads out, and he had to fill all the troughs.
That is true. We don't know if they were their cows. Maybe they were just over for Thanksgiving.
They were stand-in cows. The neighbor's cows.
It could have been the same cow over and over.
CGI cows.
I don't think that was happening in 93.
So he's up on that stage singing "Thank God I'm a Country Boy" yet again, because that is now his new favorite
at the bachelor
party.
Yeah.
And they've
not before he drank.
So he hasn't drank yet, or he was.
They kept feeding him beers.
They give him beers, and they pop a bunch of pills. They don't really say what those pills were.
Theo just dumps like
half a dozen
pills.
Like, are you trying to
directly into the drink? So he's never roofied anyone before.
He's never roofied anyone. I mean, like, A, wouldn't you taste it? And B, are you trying to kill him?
And you can see the pills.
You can see the pills. And so he drinks that, while he's singing his song. And then Tiffany Amber Thiessen shows up, and she was there. She was there already. And she's like, hey boys, she unplugs this karaoke machine. So he ends up Carl stops singing.
And he's wavering a bit.
Yeah.
He's starting to feel the effects.
And she's like, hey guys, you want some real entertainment? And then she pops open the top of her dress, and she's wearing a pink bra, and she dances for like 2 minutes.
It's a bikini top.
Yeah, it's not the best. I mean, I've had better lap dances.
I think it's to reflect that that she's doing a sexy dance.
Yeah, and he can see it because Travis had said to her earlier at the square dance, "I need you to do me a favor."
Right, and this is that favor.
And this was the favor. So by that point, she finishes her dance, and Crawl has passed out cold. And they give her a beer, and they're like, drink, drink, drink. And she drinks the beer.
And he put drugs in there.
And that beer also had drugs in it. And so now, Thanksgiving morning, they are preparing Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone's participating and helping out. And Becca's like, hey, have y'all seen Crawl? And they were like, no, he didn't come in last night because he's been sleeping in Zach's bedroom with him, and he didn't come in last night. And Theo goes, well, I heard some huffing and puffing in the barn because he's a dick. Right. And so Becca goes out there. I'm not sure why she brought out a thing of milk, but she brought out a jug of milk.
A mug.
A mug of milk or something. And because that's
a stein of milk.
I'm going to bring this out to you. Good morning.
A Viking horn of milk. We're just going to keep going bigger each time.
A keg of milk.
A goblet of milk.
So she gets in the barn, and there, basically crotch at the camera, is Pauly Shore half naked, and he's wearing, boxer briefs that are like white and red, and a half naked Tiffany Amber Thiessen, Tracy, and they are asleep on the hay bale, and she freaks out and she spills the milk, and that's what wakes them up.
Oh, well, no, she spills the milk and then drops
it, and then she goes,
what I'm going to say is a keg.
And then, and then she says, I'm sorry, or something like that. She's like, oh, oops, or something like that.
She said oops.
And then
yes.
Pauly sits up, Crawl sits up. I keep doing that. Crawl sits up, and then he's like, oh my God.
And Becca's upset.
And Becca's very upset.
She is in tears.
And Tiffany, and so I think at that point she's really feeling the betrayal, because she wouldn't be so hurt by it if she didn't care for him, I think.
I think they've developed... I think she, over this time, in this short time in this movie, of course, every rom-com is going to have that really quick lead up to a love interest, but they do never say they love each other.
They never do.
But you get the sense that she's developed those feelings, yes.
So then Tracy sits up, and she and Becca leaves.
Right.
And Crawl calls after her, but they both are like, ow, our heads. So obviously they're like, ooh, why do we both have such a bad headache? Oh, must be a really bad hangover, whatever. Becca runs into the house and yells, the wedding's off. And by that point, Crawl comes in and his pants are down and he's pulling up his pants, trying to run through the house. And then they end up having a big argument. Upstairs. Now, keep in mind, earlier in the movie, he wanted to tell the family the truth, because especially after they were done with the fly fishing, he realized that he really was beginning to grow affections for this family.
And he didn't want to lie to them.
And he didn't want to lie to them anymore. And that's the thing, is like, he never had this picket fence family before. He's never experienced that. He never got to experience it. And so here he's in this world with this mom and dad and son and grandfather, and they live on a farm. And this is the little pumpkin pie or apple pie life that he read about, he'd heard about, seen on TV. And now
this is the farm version of While You Were Sleeping.
So he's, he's a part of this now, and he hates that he's lying to them.
Right.
And so at that point, she's saying, we're going to call it off. And he's like, Becca, this is not what you think it is. And she's refusing to acknowledge it. And he's like, I promise you, I was singing, and then I woke up in the barn. I don't know what happened.
And then it starts to reflect back where he is now getting angry because she's not believing him.
And so he decides he's going to leave.
He tells her, well, you're lying about this whole situation.
Yeah, so, you should realize, maybe not point your finger at me when you are yourself are lying, and you're lying in a bigger way at this point because
And he's not lying.
And he's not lying.
He's truly not lying.
Yeah. So he packs up his stuff in a big old hefty bag, and
But it cuts away from there
to
the moment. One of the moments that really upsets me in this movie,
yes,
is when Tracy is coming out of the barn while they're upstairs having the argument. Tracy comes out of the barn and goes to her Trans Am, which was parked there, and she gets in,
and the seats moved.
Seats all the way back, and she's like, "This is weird," and she moves it up. And then Travis shows up just as she's adjusting the seat, and he accuses her and is very upset with her, very falsely, over her sleeping with Crawl, and uses that as the reasons he's breaking up with her.
And that's, and you're like, dude, you are such a dick.
Such an asshole.
So for a fact, if this had all worked out in his favor, he would most likely still be sleeping with Tracy on the side. You know damn well he would still have her on the side, because he would marry Becca, and then he would have gone back to Tracy, and he would have told her
someone else,
but he would have been like, oh yeah, no big deal, because he's a piece of shit.
But the thing is, she
feels,
truly is upset.
Yeah, because she doesn't remember what happened.
And she didn't want to have sex with Crawl.
No.
That was never the part of the...
She's flirty, but she's not whorish,
But for her, the whole plan was, she was only part of the plan in which she would do a dance. That was it.
That was it.
Nothing else. And she didn't do it maliciously. She did it as a favor. She thought it was legitimately for a bachelor party.
Yep. And
so she's been drugged. Crawl's been drugged. And now she's driving off.
And Crawl is leaving.
Crying.
Yes. And he's leaving. He's gone on the side of the road with his cardboard
Which
sign.
I'm not sure how that all worked out. I don't know how
he got so far away from the house that quickly.
It must have been a very short conversation upstairs while she was talking to Travis.
So she's driving down the road in her Trans Am, and she feels below the seat, and she finds the pill bottle. And then
Theo is not smooth at all.
No, he's an idiot.
He's never done
so
this.
And I felt that was very dramatic, but I get why. But in the most dramatic movie scene, she just spins that
She's Smokey and the Bandits in a U-turn.
Whip that Trans Am around. I went to high school with a girl who had that same Trans Am. And it was years before that too. So
yeah, you don't worry about her. She's doing just fine.
She is actually.
She's got a Trans Am.
Oh, she was doing great. So she actually has a farm. But regardless. So Tracy goes back, and she goes and she sees Crawl on the side of the road, tells him to get in.
Right, and he's got a sign up that says Hollywood.
And he's like, I just hate the fact that I don't remember if I was good or not. And she just kind of,
and
she does it, and she smirks at him, which is kind of like
another sexist thing,
So they go back to the farm.
And obviously she's filled him in on her side.
On the way to the farm.
You, Tracy has shown through this very short, amount of time, she should be a detective.
She's good.
I mean, she's Sherlock Holmes good. I mean, not that Theo's like a master planner and neither is Travis, but she sussed out all of this within a matter of moments.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And these two are idiots. So they go back. Yep. And on their way, the family's sitting down for Thanksgiving. Theo is with them.
Travis is there.
And Travis is there. And he's at the head of the table.
The
other head.
The second head. Head two.
Head two. The one Mother was sitting at. And now Connie is now sitting to the side.
Right.
And
because dramatic.
And he and Travis, and once again in full I am the biggest dick to walk on this world fashion, tries to propose again.
Yeah, out of I still love you.
I still love you.
This kind of reminds me of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where he thrills for the pills.
Oh God, yes.
It's always proposing to.
Is it Dan?
Yeah, it's Dan.
And he keeps
always trying to propose. Right.
So Crawl and Tracy come back in. They come into the house, and interrupt the, once again, proposal. And they basically out what had happened.
Tracy lays it out.
Oh yeah, her seat was pulled back so far she couldn't reach the pedals and the pills, and the fact that she couldn't remember, and Pauly Crawl couldn't remember how they got.
It's the same personality,
it is.
So I understand.
Couldn't remember how they got into the barn, and Walter, he's like, what, do you know anything about this, Theo? And how did nobody notice Travis going?
Travis shaking
he didn't
his
do
head,
the subtle. He didn't do a subtle head shake. No, he was like, no.
He didn't even do the evil eye thing.
No,
He just kind of shook his head.
I mean, how do you miss that? This table's not that big.
Theo stalls for a moment.
But he threatens his job. Walter threatens Theo's job on the farm.
Right.
And then Theo cracks. And he's like, it was only supposed to be a joke. And it was, well, no, this isn't a freaking joke. You drugged somebody, man. You made it, there are so many repercussions, so many things that could have gone wrong. She doesn't know what maybe you could have done while she was drugged out.
And this is the part of the movie that pisses me off so much. And, fuck Theo.
Fuck Theo.
Fuck Theo for doing that to her. And fuck Travis for setting that up and
then
helping
making
do
her
it.
feel like shit.
Right. And Tracy did not, she was sleeping with Travis, but
did not
she
deserve
didn't know.
it.
She did not know Becca's situation with Travis.
Nope. She probably, as far as she knew, they'd broken up.
Right. And Travis has no problem lying about it.
Yep.
She is innocent in this. And essentially she's been date raped without the rape part, but she doesn't know that.
She doesn't know that.
She has no clue that this is
And you can tell by the way she's holding herself, because she's got her jacket wrapped around her. She feels very exposed.
But she's taken her power back.
But she has taken her power back because she stands up to him. And what I love is that, she says, when they kick Travis,
Theo gets fired.
So Theo gets fired, and then Crawl, keep in mind, he was afraid of Travis the second time he met him. He got punched in the nose the first time he met him. But then he pulls out some smack right in the nose and a crotch kick. And I mean, he does a whole... And then he goes, I spent how many semesters?
2 semesters.
2 semesters in karate. And you're like, then where was that earlier?
And again,
was that earlier?
Now we can bring out that the math is not math.
Math is not mathing.
He's been in school for 6 years.
There's 4 semesters. Well, no, there's 2 semesters a year. How many semesters of things has he said? We only spent half a semester.
I don't know. I think someone's probably figured this out in a spreadsheet.
Somebody probably has, but
But I don't think the math is mathing at all.
But he said he was going to stay a couple more years in college to have a couple more majors. So
not finish anything, just to have a couple of majors. But so yes, he does the hit, which
pulls out some Krav Maga.
Yeah, which stuns Travis, and Travis falls to the ground without really any kind of fight. And Theo's fired.
Theo is fired, and they kind of kick Travis out the door, and Tracy's like, I'll take care of him. And then
they do something really nice.
Yeah.
They say, wait.
Yeah.
Tracy, why don't you join us? The mom,
Connie. And then, she looks at Becca and she's like, are you sure? And Becca was like, yes. And she's smiling at her and she's like, yes.
They really warm up to each other in that moment.
Really. And that's kind of, while there's never any deep conversations that happen in this movie between 2 women, there is camaraderie in their behaviors.
Right.
We'll
go through that. Yeah.
Against, So they have their Thanksgiving dinner, and, Pauly's back in with the family, and Becca is about to out herself now. So she stands up and she's like, I just wanted to say... And she was going to tell them that she had lied this whole entire time. And Crawl jumps in and he goes...
Saves her again.
Saves her yet again. Like the bastard bitch that he is. He's just like, yeah, okay.
I mean, he does it in a pretty smooth way,
Don't ask me what that was. I don't know what that was.
I don't know what that was, but you just wanted to say curse words.
I just wanted to say curse
words. And you did it.
I did it. So he stands up and
proud.
he says, we've thought about it, and we can't commit to a... Sorry, hit the mic again.
We're learning.
So we're not ready to pick a date for the wedding yet. So we're going to put it on hold and get to know each other a bit more. And of course, the family's like, oh, yes. But
even though they have come around to them, they don't want them rushing into this.
Because they are young. And I get that part of it. Which kind of also ticks me off, because if it was Travis, they would have been bending over backwards and already ordering wedding dresses for her and venues and cakes. Because
kind of true, because he follows along in their
the traditional
ideal.
yes. So the movie kind of ends there. They go out and they finish their dinner and they go outside and they have a big,
I think it's kind of assumed that Travis is a farmer or good at it.
He's working at the co-op, whatever that is. I'm assuming that's where
the
the
co-op
seed,
is like, yeah,
they sell the grains and stuff like
right.
that. Okay. Again, not growing up in a farm community. So basically everybody has a picture, outside of the house, and it literally says the end, and then one of the, maybe not the greatest Queen song, but definitely a great one.
I'm going to play this at the end. I'll find a clip of it, or I'll just record it and play it over. At the end, Walter Sr. doing Weasel.
Oh, God,
doing
yes.
Crawl's version of the Weasel, where he tells Travis to get out. Not going to try to paraphrase it, because I will never do it justice. I will play a clip at the end.
And then Crazy Little Thing Called Love is played.
Right.
And that's how the movie ends.
Without love being mentioned between the two primaries.
Yeah, so that's the funny thing about it.
Not having to be mentioned, it's already there.
Because he even says to her, I'm into you.
Right.
And she kind of, like that, when she accused him of cheating, he's like, but I wouldn't, I'm into you.
But they're not looking into each other's eyes and saying, I love you. I'm so in love with you. They're letting that be a real
They never share a kiss.
Part.
They
almost do. It gets interrupted.
But they are comfortable with each other, hanging on each other,
right.
and being close to each other, but they're not all up in each other, So it was a clean family. It was definitely a family movie, know.
It's a friendship that turned into love.
A family movie with possible date rape in it. But yes,
well,
because again, 90s.
Yeah, Tracy was definitely done wrong.
Oh, Tracy was done wrong.
But I like that they allowed her in the writing for her to gain her power back and become less than the trope of the cheating, the one who helped cheat.
Yeah.
And she became a friend for Rebecca and definitely a friend of the family, and rather than being vilified. So
no, I definitely agree with that.
And then credits roll.
And then the credits
and
roll.
then there's the MCU cutscene in which, okay. So something we wanted to do, and I think we're going to do this on pretty much everything we do if there's an occasion for it, unless we're talking about music and it doesn't apply.
Yes.
I don't know if everyone's aware of the Bechdel-Wallace test, and that's usually a measurement for, is it a picture of feminism in media? Well, we think, and I think there are other people that think that this might not be a fair picture of feminism, because the way the Bechdel-Wallace test is rated is fairly limiting, and it's only really good for very specific circumstances.
And really, which definition of feminism are you going by? Are you going by the feminist aspect of feminism or the equity, equality aspect of feminism?
I would think we're going by the equity.
Okay. So, yeah, this movie does not pass.
No,
I mean, women do have conversations.
But let's not go into the Bechdel-Wallace, because that's not what we're doing.
No.
The Bechdel-Wallace test has 3 tenets to it.
There are 2 women who are featured.
Yeah, that at least 2 women are featured. The second one is that these women talk to each other. And the third is that they discuss something other than a man. But we're not going to do that.
No. Well, I guess it really would then, if you go on that vagueness.
Right, but I don't think it's a fair test.
No, it's not really a fair test, because movies will have women talking to each other about a man, but it may not be in a romantic way. And then they'll go, well, they didn't pass. Well, yeah, and I think they did pass because there's other things to talk about.
So instead of the Bechdel-Wallace test, I think what we're going to do is the Castellini test. And I'll have links on the show notes. But the Castellini test was created by Brie Castellini. I think it probably gives a more accurate or a better breadth of media. So, number one, there have to be at least 2 named women characters with at least 5 lines of dialogue each. And in that sense, I believe that this did pass the test.
Becca talked to her mom. She talked to her roommate. She talked to Tracy.
She had more than 5 lines of dialogue.
I mean, Becca did.
So did her mom.
Yeah, her mom did. Yeah, no, I think it passes. Yeah, you're right. I do think it passes that.
Then, number 2, those characters must have a conversation, not necessarily with the other woman, either not about their partner or with their partner, future or current, and not about their relationship.
So, I don't know. Honestly, on that one, because when she talks to her mom, she's talking about her relationship with Crawl. When she talks to Tracy, they're not talking about guys, but then Crawl's there. And then when she's talking with her roommate, they're not talking about men either. They're just talking about their families. Now she does talk to. She talks to Travis about college,
right? But I'm going to say that this probably they don't have to talk to each other. They just have to
no. I'm
talk.
just trying to think of what.
My issue is that this all seems to be wrapped up in the 2 relationships.
Yeah,
It's either a relationship with Travis or a relationship with Crawl.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem to go beyond that. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say in this sense, it does not pass the test.
Yeah, because really the whole movie is about the relationship. So it's really hard to step away from that because, again, this is not some huge blockbuster movie that has, deep, deep dialogue. It's a comedy.
It's a comedy.
And it's lighthearted.
Yeah.
And, it's going to have a lot of conversation about the topic of the movie. So number 3 is at least one of the women has to be integral to the plot, meaning that if she were written out of the film, it wouldn't reach the same ending, which that's obviously a pass because
it's about Becca.
It's about Becca. And without her, there would be no son-in-law.
There would be nothing.
There would be nothing. The movie wouldn't exist.
It's one of those instances where it's very firmly, yes.
Yes,
this
there's
passes
no,
that.
yeah, there's no
Overall,
wiggle.
does it pass the Castellini test for feminism? And keep in mind, Brie Castellini wrote this as a joke, but so did Bechtel and Wallace, who developed the first test. It was written as a joke as well.
Okay.
These were written not in jest necessarily, but in like a tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
I do urge you go to the link, which is the Steerable People Brie Castellini. You'll see it in the show notes, and actually read up. This person is brilliant. Brie is very smart, very funny, and I think she has a lot to offer beyond her Castellini test. But we're going to continue using it because I think it's important that we try to rate.
Yeah,
these things.
and I like the different. I like that we're using a different test. So, looking at this movie without the rewatch, I would say that this is a feminist movie because I couldn't remember all the details, but just the freedom of her being able to be who she is, her fighting to break the mold of the stereotype traditional family, him being the fluid person that he is. Obviously, he's a supposed straight male, but he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't act it. And
he seems very fluid.
He's very fluid gender-wise in how he dresses and how he behaves. His
presentation.
He's very female forward when it comes to support. He's there to support them. And he tells her mom how beautiful she is. He's telling her how beautiful she is. He tells everybody how beautiful they are, but he's making them, other than when he ends up doing the mud wrestling with the overweight wrestler, everybody's beautiful.
But if you're doing this purely off of memory, you don't remember those parts.
I didn't remember those parts.
And I don't either.
But I remember the freedom of the feminism there,
right.
Being able to be who you are and having those rights.
Without the nuance of a rewatch, it passes in your head.
In my head, yes.
And it passes in mine. Because I remember it less with him. I remember him being less grabby, less... sexist. You know
and
what I mean?
especially in the beginning.
I just don't remember those parts.
Yeah,
but I think
he gets better when he goes to North Dakota,
right,
or South Dakota.
South Dakota.
Why is it in my head?
That's what I have in my show notes. But
yeah,
maybe I'm wrong.
no. It's okay. We'll be corrected later on.
Someone
Don't
will
forget,
correct us.
send us in an email.
And we'll go through that. But with the nuance, with
Knowing.
the rewatch, knowing what we know now as adults, as human adults who have been through it.
Can we rate it? Like if
Sure.
5 would be full feminism.
I mean, we're saying that it failed the Castellini test, so I could think we can say it already failed, but
I would give it about a 4 on a 5 scale.
okay.
Because there's a lot. Like again, when he's in California, yes, he's looking at the girls with being basically very very objectifying of when they're on the beach and with the camera in the beginning in the dorm rooms. That is very objectifying.
They seem to lose the camera about halfway through the movie.
He did lose the camera when they got to the farm.
It was a device that just wasn't going to have longevity.
No. But yeah.
I'm going to give it a 3, and I'll tell you why. I'm rating it lower because even when he's being complimentary, it is a sexist kind of complimentary. It's based in a misogyny.
Yeah.
And I know that is a product of the time.
Yeah, because I was trying to not look at it with modern eyes because
Yeah.
the modern lens is going to definitely skew
But I'm
that.
going to do that. I'm going to look at it because we did a rewatch of it, and we're saying without nuance, it is feminist. Mm-hmm. But with nuance, I'm going to say it's a 3 for me. Not because I dislike it. I think that it's important that
No, it's definitely a good rewatch. It's good to look back at that and say.
And it was a genuinely funny movie. It is still funny.
Oh, it is funny.
And it is still sweet in its own way.
Yeah.
And yes, it is kind of cartoonish, but that's kind of the point of it.
Yeah, because it is Pauly Shore.
Right. And we got to see Brendan Fraser, and he's just
I forgot he
adorable.
was in it. I forgot.
I love him so much.
I love him, and no matter what he does.
We're doing The Mummy at some point.
We're going to do The Mummy.
I love him so much.
My God, there's so many Brendan Fraser movies that I love. Now, I can't promise we'll do The Whale because I do not like crying. So.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But let's wrap this up.
Yes.
Let's say that if you get the chance, go watch the movie. You should see Pauly Shore in his prime.
And it's a nice photograph of the early 90s. The clothes, the hair, the just
early 90s.
The early 90s, it was a fun time.
So, where can we find this movie now?
So, you can watch Son-in-Law on Hulu, Disney Plus, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and a few others, more of the obscure ones. Or
you can come borrow my DVD. I don't have that on DVD,
No.
but I do have DVD.
And just, I check it out. Just have fun
Stream
with
it, whatever you need to do, but you're going to have a good time.
Watch it, and again, drop us an email. You can get us.
Let us know how you felt.
Yeah.
Let us know your feelings, the things that it evoked in you, seeing it for the first time, or maybe looking back on it with fond memories of Pauly Shore in his prime, or even, let's go with Carla Gugino, who has done so many things, and this is one of her earlier films.
Fall of the House of Usher.
Fall of the House of Usher.
Y'all,
Great.
watch that.
Great.
It is so good. If you love Edgar Allan Poe, watch Fall of we might have to do a rewatch of that too, because
I loved it. You loved it. We watched it together, and we were in awe of all the callbacks to Poe.
Every episode is...
I just said that in the most southern way possible.
Oh my God. Poe. But, that and House on Haunted Hill. And I love the original, and we might have to do that one as well. The original black and white House on Haunted Hill was my very first horror movie I'd ever seen. To tell us how you felt about this movie, reach out to us on Instagram at OMWFpod. You can email us at omwfpod@gmail.com. And you can reach us at omwfpod@Blue Sky. So drop us a line.
This was our first episode.
Yeah. And let us know, did you enjoy it? Did we babble? Hey, were there too many curse words? Were there not enough curse words?
But mainly, give us your suggestions.
Yes.
For the things we may watch, or the music, the movies, the books. What made you feel? Because it's not just about how you feel now. Sometimes you have to go back and look at it again. And that's once more.
With feeling. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Beth. And we'll see you later.
Bye.
Travis, it really tweaks my melancholia. Buff bro like Crawl here get wheezed on by a greasy scumbag like you. So you just chill.